Going on, guys? JD at JD's Custom Buggies, and we are on the road, taking a little road trip down to Lehigh Acres. We're on a mission today because back there got our YFZ450, and
in half a mile,
got a little
exit the highway,
do a little bit of tuning on it. So we're going down to Lehigh. We're going to see Matt Sarmiento at Sarmiento Motorsports, who has a mobile dyno. And Matt was kind enough to hook me up with some parts from RPLACING. We got some Nerf bars. Haven't installed those yet.
At exit 138.
But we do have our grab bar and bumper on there, and Matt was kind enough to get me hooked up with the VORTEX tuner. Which is why we're on the way to go down and see him now. So I had gotten an RP race exhaust and put a Pro Design intake on it. Air filter set up for their box, and of course,
in 1,000 feet, turn left onto SR82.
it drastically changed the way the quad runs, and it went from running stock to snappy and crappy. So what we're gonna do is take it down there, and he's gonna dyno tune it, and we're gonna find out more about that. So I figured it'd be interesting enough that we'll do a little video about it. Because quite frankly, I know what a dyno does, but I can imagine how you would use one to tune it, but I don't have the smarts or the whereabouts to have a clue how to do that thing. So told Matt we were gonna bring a camera down there, and he was more than happy to, with the idea. So we'll all get educated together. So in a few miles we'll be there, and we'll meet Matt. All right, so made it over here to Matt's. This is Matt.
Hey, how's it going?
Sarmiento.
How's it going?
And looks like he's bolted up some slicks for the dyno.
That's it. So yeah, I gotta run the slicks. So the appropriate tire size to run these drums. Obviously recommended from DynoJet. So we go with what they're telling us. So we got the Mickey Thompson, the Earnhardt Juniors. They actually work great on here, and then also that way we'll hook up traction better also on the dyno. So we'll see what we can get out of this thing. So,
all right, so let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
So we just got the VORTEX put in.
yes,
And that was your recommendation.
yes.
So it's got a bunch of dials on it. Now, I was
Yes.
talking to a friend of ours, by the name of Bushwhacker, and so what is the difference between, obviously we got dials, because I don't know. I'm asking these questions for myself.
Okay.
So we have dials on there. There are programs, right? I heard you mention that in one of your videos. Matt's got if you're into quads, you're into MX quads, Sarmiento Motorsports has a channel on YouTube that you'll want to check out, because I subscribe. So, so there's programs for the VORTEX.
Yes.
But those programs you have to buy or subscribe to.
So from factory,
Okay.
the VORTEX already comes with 9 maps already preset on it.
Okay.
So a big mistake that a lot of people make, and again, sometimes and you and me go back old school, going back to just straight feel. When you feel the power of an engine or however. So the first 4 maps are actually for stock engines.
Okay.
So map 1 through 4, and it actually has a notation there. So one's a power map, one's a traction map, one's a torque map, etc.
Gotcha.
And then one's a little bit richer power map. Then after that, then it breaks off into actually like just basic maps for race motors. Now the thing that a lot of people make a mistake on, and I should say it's a mistake, it's just the understanding is that then after that, breaking these other engines is for a race motor. So something with a ported head, one with higher compression.
Right.
'Cause
every motor's different.
Every motor's different. Exactly. Every motor's different.
I found out I can't build 2 identical motors, even if they're identical, that one performs or does something different than the
And
other.
you've built how many motors in your lifetime? Exactly.
I'm up to
Man doesn't know.
40-something this year, so.
Right, in 1 year. Right. I understand. I've been turning wrenches since I was a little kid, so I understand. So you and me, we understand that. So, and there's not a single engine that is the same. You could build them identical, and one's going to be has a little more high-end horsepower, and one's got a little more torque or something.
Right.
And they could be identical parts, identical everything, and they're always going to be a little different. Just the nature of how they are. So the maps are base maps. They're basic. They're just basic maps just to get you started. Now the dials, though, are to change the fuel trim. So low, medium, high.
Right.
So at all 5s is actually neutral. So once you go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
You're getting richer.
it goes richer. It goes richer by 2.5%. Once you go under that, it actually goes leaner. So you actually rich and lean. So a lot of people think that 5 is already rich. That's actually neutral.
Okay.
So that's a misunderstanding as far as that as well. But if your motor's stock, and I've seen this time and time again where I've had a motor come in and they have it on map 9, which is for like a race motor, basic race motor, which is a pretty good map. And they swear that, hey, I'm getting good power, and I literally make a pass, switch it back to map 1 without changing the dials, and jump up 1 or 2 horsepower. And they said, why? It's because it feels good on the bottom, but yet you just don't have anything on top. You're not developing.
So they're assuming that if I use a race map or a map for a race motor, it's going to turn my motor into a race motor.
Correct.
That's necessarily the case.
Correct. Right. And you've seen that. You've seen that in your experience. Or dumping pump gas in on a non-tuned machine, it's going to make it faster. Right. Normally it's the opposite.
Race gas.
Race gas is a low compression. Right. I'm going to get a can of 110 or a 114, drop it in there on a stock compression motor, which let's say is 10.5 to 1.
And it won't know. In fact, it might run worse.
It usually runs worse. On the dyno, I've seen it run worse. In fact, my own personal machine, in fact, we did some fuel testing that when I went from pump gas straight to a Sunoco 110, I actually dropped 2 horsepower once I tuned it because the fuel density was too much.
Now, can you tune that out or no?
Yes, I was able to get it back, but I didn't exceed it over what the stock was or what I was able to
So
get
it wasn't
off
worth the
pump
money to buy the race gas because
gas.
you had to compensate to get your horsepower back. Gotcha.
Right. I mean, it was cleaner. It runs cleaner.
So let me assume that what you're going to do here with the dyno, you can basically exceed what the preset maps are and kind of really fine tune it.
Right. So what I'm going to be doing is so there is actually 10 spots on there. Now I can custom map, custom tune every map. So you can have a custom maps, on every 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 10. I'll start on 10. How you set all your stock maps. I'm going to also set to calibrate the TPS, basically marry that TPS to your vortex, so that vortex is going to read that TPS.
And I know nothing
point.
about EF5,
Right.
but TPS throttle position sensor.
Throttle position sensor, right?
I knew that. That's about it.
And that's very important. It's very, very important on this machine. Once they're synced up together, that makes a big difference also too as far as the response. I'm going to tune it not just on a wide open pass all the way through, so from idle, basically all the way out. So it's going to get a full tune. Okay. That way you yield the best results. So I got to put some time in it. We'll start with a pretty good, solid, pre-selected map already for, big 3 on pump gas. And I've already, created, but they're all a little different.
Right.
Always a little different. There's always room for improvement. So.
All right, so let me ask you one more question. I'm going to let you
Sure.
do your thing. You explain to us what you're doing.
Sure.
Flashing. I hear people saying, well, you can flash the tuner. So what are you doing? Just clearing it out and putting your own?
So the way the Vortex works, the Vortex software is a write-only software. It's not a read and write. So you cannot, retrieve what's on it. So when you flash the ECU, now I'm going to upload a new tune onto it.
Okay.
So and for a lot of people, they're too far away. So normally, what I've seen, especially because I'm developing the actual tunes on a dyno, so especially if it's relatively close, I see like about the worst like 90%, that it's as good, but usually about 95% or better, like where they say, yeah, this is on point, and then they were able to get to a dyno, and now this is where the clickers come in place, or if they need to make a couple little air to fuel adjustments, maybe because they're a location, they need to, and I've had customers say, yeah, we did one pass, it was like so close, we just did one little adjustment on it, and it was perfect.
So basically,
like it's like 99, like
by writing a
95,
program,
yeah.
you're giving a behavioral aspect to the tuner.
Correct.
And then basically from there,
If they
you have
need to,
elevation changes, weather changes, humidity, this, that. You can kind of fine tune it with the dials.
Usually it's the temperature, because these machines, they do, since EFI, they do have a barometric scale, so it actually does read altitude. So from sea level, once you get into the mountainous, as elevation changes. So by elevation and also by temperature, it actually can scale up and scale down the air to fuel trim.
Gotcha.
But the difference also too is that going from the stock map to now like a custom tune I have, also now the timing has changed. All the parameters of it are changed. Or I can change anything specific for the customer. If they're looking for that extra little bit, I've had a lot of people message back and like run the dyno. Hey, what should we do? Or they ought to get a session, and maybe the tuner they never did with they never dealt with the ATV. And I was like, yep, let's just do this, and they've done exactly what I had mentioned, and it was perfect AFRs.
Gotcha.
And they said that, and they didn't even make that much more power. I was like, but at least it was perfectly healthy. So I mean, the line was perfect all the way across, which is really good. So that's what they're looking for, a healthy running machine. And how important that is. So.
Now, just putting into Vortex, I didn't change anything. There's no power gain, no nothing. So in other words, if everything is the way it was out of the box,
all right. So normally, is
there a gain? Is what I'm saying.
Yes. So just out of the box, there is a gain. Okay. Is there more to be gotten out of it? Yes. We can do a pass with how it is. Just putting on, out of the box, we could do a pass how it is. So, you already did an exhaust,
As a Pro Design
filter.
retrofit in the box.
Right. So that's already changing what stock is.
Yes.
Right. So we're already changing. You're already
Since
changing.
I put the pipe on, it's snappy and crappy. Like, it's got more snap. I can feel like the potential's there.
Right.
But then there's hesitation and whatnot. So.
Right. There's areas that are missing.
Right.
Right. And you know this easily because you've done images for.
At that point, I'm like, well, I really can't ride this thing until we.
Right. Well, a lot of people do.
Something. Right.
A lot of people do. So and the stock, like I said, the stock maps, the base maps, they're basic to get you going. Without having, a machine or a tool in order to know where you are. So, good is by load base and also, wideband sensor. So we'll, get the data back of what's happening with the engine. Then, we can make the right corrective changes.
And the 20, you just bought a, what was that, 21 or 22?
22, yep. 22,
so you got a bone stock 22 that you dynoed because you bought. Seems to me like you just went to the store and said, I have this dyno and I really need to know.
Pretty much.
I'm going to justify this purchase.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, I was following all that.
I walked right into SARMIENTO and they had one there, and my sales lady there, Michelle, she's like, "Oh yeah, we got this." I was like, "Yeah, all right, yeah, I'll take it."
I'm gonna buy this for nothing more than to test my equipment.
That's pretty much all it was.
So what was claim horsepower that they advertised? It was 40 horse.
40 horse.
And what did you get?
34.
34. Okay. So
Transmitting to the tires.
Gotcha.
Completely stopped.
34 to the ground.
To the ground.
So this stock motor, 2012 stock motor, the only changes I've made is putting that pipe on there, adding the Vortex, and then the Pro Design air filter.
Right.
Between that, so you can do a pass, see where you're at right now, which is what you got to do for point of reference. So we'll see what just those changes made, and then we'll see what happens after that, which is the most interesting. Just like I'm a kid in a candy store.
I'm positive that we'll already see close to like low 40s already, right off the rip. With what you did, because as soon as you install the Vortex, that helps a lot. Now if you have the stock ECU, it would be definitely detrimental to it, because obviously the stock ECU is mapped for a stock pipe, airbox lid on and all those things. So like they've had a good one that I hear a lot of. I'm not, it's just, when people pull the exhaust core out, because they haven't got an exhaust system yet, to get more power. Well,
make it louder.
Yeah, to get more power. So I did that with my new machine. I pulled my core out and I dropped 2 horses. Bone stock ECU.
You probably lost back pressure.
Because it lost back pressure. Right, because it doesn't have packing like, performance exhaust. It's all a backflow system. So a lot of people don't understand it. It sounds faster, but it's not faster.
It took me a long time developing the pipes for the buggies. I mean, there was a lot of experiments till and there was no dyno involved. It was a seat of my ass. So, until it really felt like it snapped.
Right.
And then I compared it to competitors' pipes, and I'm like, we got something.
Right.
So, I mean, people don't understand how important back pressure is for torque.
Correct.
You have to have that back pressure. A lot of people, if I just hack the muffler off and go. And I see a lot of that in the buggy world,
Correct.
It just makes it louder.
And what we can do is, if we're not seeing the numbers that we're liking, because you have a shorty on there. I mean, I have mine's a 16-inch. We can even make a comparison, a pass comparison.
Gotcha.
Makes no difference to me. I mean,
that's right. You're running RP.
Right. I have a RP 16 on mine right now. Okay. Currently that's what I had right there. Well, I did testing with the Ross here. That also good on this last when I actually took it out for my first ride. Finally went out with the RP, so everything was well. And I've seen also even too just changing the muffler, just like you said, the back pressure aspect, the back pressure, whatever to make. Just a few inches of the muffler.
So a shorty muffler gives you less back pressure, obviously. Okay.
Right. But I have seen that, especially like on this setup, normally it'll give you better high-end horsepower, so better high-end pull, but may not as much torque.
Right.
So it just depends on what you want as usable power.
Right.
So it all depends on what you need.
Gotcha.
That's it. And every every criteria, as you know, is different. So it depends on the rider's needs, what they're looking for. Okay, so make it your own. So
I'm just looking to not feel like I'm so slow.
Yeah, no, I remember when you got this machine, I was like, wow, this is actually a really clean, stalker. So
I got lucky. I got a good deal on it, and I mean, so I have one full race at Lazy, and I'm just mentioning this for subscribers and whatnot. So I got one full moto. I actually missed the second moto because I was fixing a buggy, but
happens.
What I found was this, and here's where, because you and I have talked, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not dumping a penny in this thing until I feel like I'm out riding the bike and the bike's holding me back.
Right.
Well, the bike I felt at Lazy was holding me back because, I mean, there was a particular turn, this is going to sound like nonsense, but where you go where the grand, where the people stand, you go, and then I noticed there's another left-hander wraps around in a 180, and there's a jump right there. It's a good size jump.
Right.
I couldn't get enough. I couldn't have enough momentum or get enough momentum coming through that turn that if I attempted to jump it,
Right.
it was going to hurt. I was going to nose over.
Right.
So I was rolling over.
Right.
You know, just a survival instinct.
Survival instinct, yes.
Yeah. So at that point, it's not forgiving enough. Most people would say, well, you don't need more power if you have more experience. At this point, I'm at the point where I think I need more power because I need it to be a little more forgiving, where the power can get me out of trouble. You know, power can get you in trouble, but I need enough power to get me out of trouble, and that's where I'm at.
This is the situation you need to get out of trouble.
Yes.
Right, and I know the turn you're talking about. Yes, you need to have a handful of throttle. You need to have the confidence that, okay, this machine is going to make it. It has enough to carry me across. Because if you case it, it's
Lazy's not a supercross track. It's not hard packed or whatnot. It's not like you see these guys flip a throttle and they jump 40 feet.
Right.
Lazy's sandy, it's soft, and you need the momentum to carry through.
Right.
And the jump's not that tall, but it's very lippy, and it will send the S end over. So
absolutely, and especially with that soft material, that as you're coming through it, you know, if you don't have enough power to turn that material off the tires and dig into the traction, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
And at this point, like at Mesa, I high-sided in practice a bunch of time. You know, it gets stuck. You can feel the bottom dragging.
Right.
And, you know, there's just not enough oomph to get me going. Whereas I feel if you have more momentum, you can kind of skate over that.
You do.
So
you're absolutely right. Well, I've seen also too, and I mean, I'm glad. Thank God they're actually, you know, they're still, you know, Yamaha's making a sport machine. The problem with the stock ECU is that obviously it's the emissions war, obviously all that stuff. You know.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, like every buggy, buggies aren't completely wimpy. It's just that they neuter them so much again through customs and emissions and whatnot that's the goal.
They're very boggy.
The manufacturer's goal is to get it in the country, and then the Americans will buy it.
Right.
So
same. Exactly.
They come neutered.
So, and that's exactly correct. So the stock ECU is so choked, is so bad as far as response, you know, throttle response, you know, what it's going to give you. Now, you could be, you know, riding, and I had experience of this when I was out of the country riding, you know, and thankfully I had something to ride, but I forgot how bad a stock ECU is. You know, coming up on wide open throttle, and I was going more than fast enough to clear this jump, so I need to back off some of the throttle, scrub some of the speed off.
On the bike you're on in
Honduras. I was barring, and I could literally feel the machine starting to jerk and start to chuck, you know?
Yeah.
Because the tuning isn't good enough, number one, to actually just carry it right there, steady at that
almost felt like it was leaning out a little bit.
It's leaning out, reaching out, really out. So it's actually jerking, and so now you actually get back on the throttle, overshoot a jump, or at least that was the smoothest way to do it.
Right.
But now there's a fence coming up,
yeah.
So either or get the brakes, but then you're trying to compete. You actually need to be on the throttle.
Right.
You're just on an uphill step up. So it's like, so thankfully, like I said, there is something there. So the only problem with the stock ECU is either you're on or you're off of it. There's no in between.
Gotcha.
And that's where I've seen a lot of people where their confidence has wavered with these was because of that. Like the LTR had a really good stock ECU, especially once you put the cherry bomb on. The cherry bomb was a bypass relay to put on the race map, and that thing ran great, very good. Of course, the emissions problems of it. Right. Now, straight up California, the no fun state, neutered them and said no more Suzukis because it's too easy to modify them. But that's because it was a full blown race machine from factory,
right,
out of the box. So unfortunately, all the manufacturers have had to tiptoe with anything four-wheel side-by-side ATV or whatever. Which
we'll leave it up to you.
Yeah. Well, now we're gonna actually put the power back into it. So
this is gonna be cool.
Now, and I have seen with the Vortex too. Just putting it on, where I've still also, especially not having it mapped correctly or tuned correctly. However, still a little jerky on throttle, but not terrible. But after tuning, it makes a big difference how much it smooths it out. And also too, when you ask for the power, it's there.
Right.
So that's the big thing. So when you want it, it's there. And when you just need to back off and just be smooth and steady, it's doing what you need it to do.
I mean, the first time I rode this machine down the road when I got it, I'm like, man, this thing's badass, like a sport bike with 4 wheels.
Mm-hmm.
And then I bought an 85 Ducati. And I took that thing down the street. And that thing, this thing wouldn't hold a candle to. I mean, that thing scared me.
Yep.
I mean, granted, it's a 3-wheeler and everything, but
yeah.
about ripped my arms. I hadn't been on an old 2-stroke 250 in a while, and that thing was mean. So I'm like, yeah, this thing needs a little help.
Yeah, and that's just it. Again, like you said, they've been neutered is a good terminology. Yeah, they've been definitely tuned down. So
yeah.
Well, we're gonna fix that. So
it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, it is gonna be cool. All right. Well, my next steps is to get off this stand, get start strapping it up, get it warmed up, get the O2 probe into it, get it hooked up. Basically, we're going to get the vitals. That way we can start reading the vitals to the power stack, the wideband, and get the software hooked up to it. There you go. All right. All right, try to get a good visual on this screen here, this laptop screen. Not sure how good it's going to come out, but not messing up the tripod. Probably had it right the first time. There we go. Okay. So, I don't know if we can see the numbers on the laptop. Right now, this is showing negative 1.1. Well, there is no 1.1, right? So basically, our TPS is out of calibration. Now we go to 100%. We're showing 104.8. So we're out of the range right now. It will run, it'll run fine, but we're not in that crisp range. So we're lacking at several locations. So what I am going to do right now is I'm going to calibrate that TPS to this vortex. So this TPS is going to be married to this vortex basically until obviously it's never changed again. And that way it's on point from 0 or 0.1 volts or excuse me percent to 100.1, and it is voltage based, 5 volt reference. Okay. So easy stuff.
And you can do all that from the laptop.
All from the laptop, and that's that's something you cannot do by the clickers.
Don't even need a tool.
No.
Nice.
So set idle. We just got a new voltage, and now the other thing too is I'm also going to change all your maps are now going to read the new voltage setting, the voltage sweep from closed to the wide open, and now it's going to interpret that voltage sweep. It's like any throttle body on a car, pickup truck, whatever, that runs with the throttle body. And there we go, 0.1% like it's supposed to be, and at 100.1%.
Nice.
So now we actually have control now, much better control of where we're going to be, because I'm going to tune it to all the different parameters that it needs to be. So that's the biggest start of any tuning. So, and now we're going to keep on going.
Perfect.
Now we're going to go live on the motor. we got a whopping 41.98 horses and 28.67 torque. So better than stock by far.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's what we got. So not bad. We'll take it. And I can definitely see that there's room for improvement. We're gonna ditch the torque numbers right now. And yeah, it's coming in way too rich. Get a little lean and kind of dips back rich a little bit, but then it straightens out at the end. So we're gonna try and fix that. But we're gonna take the lid off. We're gonna take another pass. Get it a little cool down.
Yeah, that might lean it out a little bit.
Absolutely. So that'll take away that big rich dip, or at least help that. That's a huge thing. Let's give a little bit of a little air there. So I try to always keep running the same. So the nice thing as far as this is then I can at least watch the temperature, all those goods and all that good stuff, and keep all that, you know, try to keep it the same RPM takeoff and everything. The other thing too with this tool is well, also, you know, knowing the how it's progressing too. That's the other thing. And so with the dyno now, we can track the progression of it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And what I mean by that is what's the most important thing on every motor? You know, it's running healthy and all that stuff, but how fast does it develop, right? So right now, from 4,000 RPM to rev limiter on 5th gear, it takes this thing a whopping 6.5 seconds to get there.
Okay.
That was a pretty long pull.
Right.
If we could get that to 6 or under, that's a big increase.
Okay.
Right, and that makes sense.
I'm following you, yeah.
That transitions to.
Not that it's not there, it's how quick it's getting there. So.
That's another thing too. Like my race bike that I sold, that took part, got from 4,000 to rev limiter in right under 4.5 seconds.
Okay.
That's a huge gap difference. A 2-second difference over this. That's huge.
Yes.
That's pulling bus lengths. Or really, I mean, on a full course, but sometimes in between turns, that's
2 seconds on a track in any is a lot.
just from one gear pull.
Right.
So imagine that's every gear.
Yeah.
That makes a huge difference on ground. You're catching on. I see you catching on quick. You get it.
So as far as the raw numbers, where does it stack up compared to most bikes that you've seen running in the area?
We're a little under. We're about 2 horses under, but I would see 2-3 horses under. I mean, mine with the FCI on pump gas, I was able to get 47 horses out of it.
Yeah, but that's built, correct? Oh, stop.
My race made 65 horses. When
Okay.
I took apart, and 40 foot-pounds of torque. Yeah,
Okay.
big difference. We're gonna drop the airbox. See how that helps. We'll go from there. And of course, like every other, mechanic, got to come with a dirty air filter.
Oh, come on now. take the outerwear off, it'll be clean.
That's right. It'll be fine.
Well, I think there's an outerwear on there, so I don't have to clean it
right.
half as much.
That's right. We'll give it a few minutes. I'll always try and pass it again at 75 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
Because in the middle of the maybe I want you to come over here with the camera. That's fine.
What you got?
So you jump from taking the airbox lid off from 41.98 to 45.3.
Really?
The intake will probably jump to like 47 or 48. That's how much of a difference it makes. Yeah,
really?
It's choking in here. Hey, just try to breathe through that little hole.
And it's kosher to run without the lid. Okay.
No lid.
I got the outerwear. That's what I got it for.
Yeah. So, and you can see the red is always the last pass. Every time I make a pass, the red is the last pass. See? Look at the difference. That's the last pass. And we jumped 2 foot-pounds of torque. Yeah, jumped to 30. so last passes are red. Now this is also too, you know, starting off on this is actually a very popular map that I, you know, sell. It's for a big 3 map. You know, this has been a really good seller for me. A lot of good reviews on it. You can always get, I can always get a little bit more out of it, but you know, it always at least has to have airbox lid off with a Pro Flow, or at least an FCI or RP intake with a full exhaust. And I've always seen about this amount of numbers, about 45 to 46 horses, 30 to 31 foot-pounds of torque. So real on pump gas. So, and yes, there is a little bit of room for improvement. Again, each machine's a little different, and we're gonna see if we can get there. We get a hair more, but that's a big jump difference. Fantastic.
Yeah. I'm floored.
Yeah. Hey, all from a little bit of, like, you know, some beep boops. That's what it comes down to. All right, I got AFRs, and that was actually a pretty steady pass. So actually, that was all of them still in the green. So.
And what about that time you were talking about? What did you say, 4.5 seconds?
Oh yeah, the time. Right. Well, that was all like on my race bike, so we could see, just taking off the airbox lid, we went from 6.5 seconds to like now we're like 6 in under 6.1 seconds.
So about a half second.
Almost a half second. That's a big difference. How much that will, just from the Vortex, that is with a custom tune from me, you know.
So you've already got the tune on it.
I already dropped the tune on. Right. We can switch it back to map 1 and put the airbox lid back on, and I guarantee it's going to be less than all that. So
Oh yeah.
I guarantee it'll be like 40 to 41 horse. So that's what the difference is. So yeah, that's, well, I can explain it out better, and now I'll go on my end over here.
So over stock, we're up 11 horse.
Yeah. Yeah. And 27 foot-pounds of torque, I think you got on stock or something like that. 26, 27. So yeah.
Anything else we could take off?
Only is that easy.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, but
So I'm about right there with our frame now.
yeah. Alright. Just gotta do a little work on this guy. And as I've, you know, started to learn. Your 75% basically is like what your 100% was before. Well, realistically, yeah, they made 42.4 horses at 75%. Lawnmower horsepower 14.86.
That was a half?
Yeah, well, from 50 to 33% is a big chop. It's so bad I could barely even read which is which. I know the squiggly line is the horsepower. Like I felt that it was surging or laboring.
Now, like,
It was very lean. Look how lean it is. We're in the 15 range, in the 15 AFR.
right.
That's super lean. That's inching like.
Now, by tuning down the throttle position, you know, with the screw, are you fine tuning like positions of like just trying to fine tune between this and that?
Well, what it is, I'm actually tuning each map column. That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Each map column has to be tuned. That's the big deal, is tuning all the map columns. Once all the map columns are tuned, I mean, everything in between, so like when you're 80% throttle or this or that, now it can equate. When everything is closer together, it can equate easier. All the software is going to equate what is now in between this and that.
I got you.
Versus load, RPM, and throttle position. But if the closer you are, the closer each thing is to each other, the better it's going to be able to respond. Like any type of tuning software. And that would be the big money right there. That's a lot better, right?
Smoother.
Yeah. Hey, it jumped from 14 horses to 17. So yeah, makes a big difference.
That's at a quarter.
That was at, yeah, 33%.
Gotcha.
But by knowing that already, 25 and 33% are very similar. So I already know the 25 is going to be the same.
So right off the jump,
Yeah.
you gained extra 2 horsepower.
Pretty much 3.
Good.
Just from that. Just from that.
Good.
Definitely got plenty of snap to it. Alright, here's the fun part. Well, I don't know, that extra half horsepower might be a lot to ask for. But what a smooth, that is nice and smooth.
That felt good?
This is what it did. 45.59, but look how smooth that is. That's what you want to see.
Just steady climb all the way up.
Steady and very, very progressive and smooth.
And what was the final number? 45.9?
So far, yeah. We're gonna see if we can. now we're gonna play with it a little bit. But that's what I'm saying. Look how smooth it
No,
is.
man, it snapped. I mean, when you blipped it, I actually jumped.
That third gear, yeah. Look how much the suspension opened up on it. You saw how much? That's how much power it had. But that's on third gear. So on third and fourth, that's what you're gonna feel back on the track. You know,
I
that's
thought I was
just,
gonna hop off. I was like,
Nah,
he's not going through the front of the trailer.
you got to break in the straps actually. When you do that, these straps are well broke in. You get new ones, it starts to stretch the straps. So it's good stuff. All right, but actually it was a really good run. It was pretty healthy. Our AFRs were really good. still a little rich on coming in, but again, that's I know the intake, so we're not gonna be able to really like cure that too much. But it comes on so good, I wouldn't worry about it because look how smooth the graph is.
No, if it feels good and it looks good.
And that was all within very well acceptable ranges. I could at least probably try and mow down at least that a little bit, get that little high bump off. But
At this point, you're working with whatever we got in there. You know what I mean? Like you're
Right.
saying, the intake could change and that could.
Correct, and intake would help that a lot. I mean, because the stock intake, you can only get so much in the stock intake. Because basically, it kind of jumps up and then it drops back down. So,
Right.
I mean, is it worth? This is actually a really good, a really smooth, progressive map. So I don't think we're gonna get to 46 and a half, but we might be able to jump to 46.
I was gonna say, I think you're going for the 0.1 more than anything.
Not tripping the straps. I'm dying. As high as that one will go. Okay. Is that a good shot on that?
Good to go.
Alright, so this is the final numbers that we got out of this guy. I'll try playing a couple different areas here. Right now this is as best it's gonna give us, the healthiest. Without changing like another factor like an air intake would help a lot to bring, to get more of if we're looking for like the 46 and 47 horsepower numbers. But right there close. Best we saw was 45.83 and 30.79 torque, but we were able to get a little bit better response and smoothness. Just did a little adjustment there, a little timing adjustment. So I tried playing the timing both, going a little bit less, a little bit higher. And actually, a lot of people say just add more timing to it. Adding more timing lost power.
Right.
Versus taking away a little bit of timing, gained on power because now gave the fuel time to burn. Makes sense. It's pump gas. So with that said, I mean, that's, still good numbers though for a completely stock motor, 2012.
Yeah.
Right?
Who knows what this thing went through before I got it, so.
We don't even know what it has in it.
Right.
We don't know when was the last time it had rings.
Probably never.
Right. So possibly.
I know I changed the oil, but that's all I know.
Did you change the spark plug at least?
No, I haven't.
How many NGK spark plugs you got back at the shop?
Oh, probably a couple.
I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure you have catalogs of
Probably
them.
a couple.
So those are all little things. So I mean, we might be able to see, with when was the last time the valve lash was adjusted?
Well, that was one thing I'd asked you about at the track. But
It didn't sound bad. So I mean, the machine looks like it has extremely low hours. I don't think it has a lot of time on it. But could a new plug and rings make also a difference? Of course it can. Refreshing it, make sure the valve lashes well. All those things. Will we see gigantic numbers? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to see something huge. I mean, if it was way off, we'd actually see that here on the graph. But I mean, that is a good graph. That actually is really smooth. That is very progressive, and I mean, it's really not, terrible. And we go back to what it was before, and the very first pass to what it is now. That's a big difference.
well,
So
do you have the first pass on?
absolutely. So we'll switch back to the first pass. Let me get out of the way. And we'll take a look to compare. And we'll take off. Oops. We'll take off a couple of them. I believe actually got to exit on this thing. Sometimes it does some funky stuff. To show all your.
Actually, the first pass and the last pass would be cool to see on the same graph. If that's possible.
I believe the second to last was.
Whatever one we got, whatever one
one
we
that showed
ended up
the-
keeping.
Yeah. And there we go.
So the red is, the blue is the first pass.
The blue is the very, very, very first pass. The red was when we started getting into one of the very end, and then I played some of the numbers. But I set you up on pass 11, so we'll take the 10 off. So that is where she's at right now.
Green versus blue.
Green versus blue. So not terrible.
Good lord. I mean,
That is a
but
big
if you're
difference.
comparing one to the other, it's huge.
Right. That is a big difference, right? Right, that's a substantial difference. Also, to be on a stock head, again, also, the stock head we can only flow so much. The intake will help to even smooth that out some more as well. Seen that. Smooth out your graph. All that works together in conjunction. So that was actually taking away a little bit of a timing, actually taking away the 0.2 degree of timing away, and gave us better torque numbers. So we went from 45.83 horses to drop down to 0.04, but then gained on torque. So I'd rather have more torque personally, and also the engine got from point A to point B faster. So that's where we're set up at right now. Fantastic, but yeah, that's a big from the very first pass. So if I'm just plugging in the VORTEX, which is fine, all that, and that, I did already set up the TPS on that first pass. That way I already had that done. But look, a whopping little over 2 foot-pounds of torque increase. That's what you're gonna feel the most. But I mean, look at the gap difference of where the torque is.
Yes, I'm seeing that.
A huge gap difference in how it carries.
And if you think about from the last time I rode at Lazy's, when I just had a stock exhaust pipe on it, who knows? You know what I mean? But
and I can show you what bone stock looks like. So that was a big reason for picking up my my new machine.
Right.
What completely stock looks like. And there's completely stock. So red is completely stock. Blue is from your first. In fact, I'll take away the torque so it's a little more comprehensible. So we can all comprehend it a little bit better.
Right.
So this is all just horsepower numbers. So this is a bone stock, brand new machine. After you've done work to it, put in a pipe, VORTEX,
and
it has the Pro Design, the Pro Flow kit. So big difference over stock, and now this is after tuning, the green line. So there you go. It goes to show how much all that helps.
And
tuning is a huge deal.
All I had was the Pro Design on there for Lazy, so maybe a hair, and who knows if even if I had a gain from it,
Well, yeah, the stock lid on, so probably not.
Yeah,
probably
because after taking the lid off, it made a huge difference.
Yeah, probably nothing. So yeah, all stock, completely stock. From the factory, just grab it. I literally just got it from the truck, from the dealer, put it on the truck, brought it here, dropped it right off here, and then loaded it right on the dyno. Didn't even think about it. Just first pass, and it was pretty bad. I almost cried when I saw that 34.44. I was like, that's harsh.
Got me.
That's really harsh. Yeah, they got you. That's for sure. They got me good. But I mean, so from 34.44, basically 42 horsepower. That's a pretty significant jump. We round that. Just 41.98. That's close to 42.
Yeah, it's about 11 over stock.
That's a huge jump. So the pipe and the intake plus the VORTEX, that's a huge jump over stock. And then tuning, well, that makes it even all that much better.
So the next easy move is to change the intake, and then the bigger move is probably when she looks tired, do rings and a head.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. However you want to do it. Do a new piston and cams or a head. However you want to. There's so many different routes to go about. It just depends on how you feel. If you like how it's running, but definitely, this is good to start up with this.
I was going to say, it's probably a good next progressive step. Because, like I said, I was going to keep it stock but it wasn't cutting it. So.
Yeah, and now we could, the nice thing as far as this, now we could actually make a comparison we don't need to worry about the, what the stock machine makes anymore. I can show you off my new machine, the best it made on pump gas with an intake. So that's the nice thing as far as all the R&D work. Now again, this would be also too with a, with fresh rings. I mean, it's a new motor.
Right.
So fresh rings, valve lash is good, everything's good. Let me get rid of this. I just took off the wrong pass one for you. Let me go back to what your best, where we're set at right now on pump gas. Where did you go? This is where you're at right now. So that's the difference right now of going with an intake. Going to an intake to right now, the Pro Design
so
is
the
good.
Blue is which one?
Is you right now.
Okay.
And the red is what mine is.
You're 22 with what? A pipe and an intake?
Pipe, intake, and pump gas.
And VORTEX.
And VORTEX.
Okay.
Obviously tuned, So look how much better that carries over.
Right.
That really keeps the horsepower pushing really good. and now we can add torque back to the graph, so we could all, you know, see those numbers as well. And hey, I mean, you got really good torque.
I got a good jump there.
You got really good torque.
Right.
I mean, so then that makes sense too as far as an engine. You have a little bit more restriction to it. It's going to gain on torque quicker, but then it drops off faster. Where mine is holding the torque way, you know, further out.
Through the
way
mid-range,
longer.
right.
Right. So it has more mid-range torque. Where yours is dropping off, mine's, you know, still picking up. So, you know, a lot of you know, different ways to look at that. This isn't a bad setup, especially like somebody who'd be using this like for practice or something like that for woods, or to race it even for woods.
Right.
Because that torque is really good initially, but again, because the intake is a little bit
And
restricted.
that torque might be the forgiveness I'm looking for.
Yeah.
You
So
know, coming out of corners and stuff.
well, that would be a good
So,
forgiveness.
I mean, the torque numbers are so close there. Your 30.60 is 30.85, but where it's making most of it is like right at the beginning.
in the beginning, and that would make sense. You know, on an engine, if you know you restrict the intake some more, it's going to force the engine to get more torque,
Right.
you know, sooner. And that's very you know, common on most engines. You know, it depends on how you do it, but I mean, good numbers all the way around. So yeah, an intake, you know, we can see in the upper, you know, definitely 46 to, you know, low 47s for you easily, not a question. Also, too, you know, different pipes too, different pipe lengths.
Yes.
Because you have a shorty and also I have a 16, so this would be interesting to see, you know, how that equate. You know,
Yep.
Probably ran out of a little bit of time to do a pipe swap, but we'll just do that another time as well.
So the intake, I'm going to assume, because everything between the two are so close. I don't know what's in the air box, but I mean, with the missing intake, you're talking about maybe potential of gaining 2 horsepower.
Absolutely. That's not even a question. So, I mean,
The next thing you have to help me shop for. That's pretty much a bolt-on deal anyway, right?
that's a bolt-on deal, and so what I was also trying to achieve was with when I picked up my 22 was, you know, what are the parts that we could get that's an off-the-shelf part, nothing you know, custom.
Before you have to pull a brand new motor and do a bunch of work to it, let me get as
Right.
much as I can out
Right.
of it without doing all that.
Right, and this is also a great example. This is a 2012 to a machine that's 10 years newer.
Yes.
Look how they're really close. You
They
know?
are close.
They're very close. So that goes that right there tells me also too by your graph that this motor doesn't have that much time on it.
I got you.
If it was a wore-out motor, we wouldn't even see close to this, or the torque numbers would be like dipping down,
Right.
and we'd see that this thing would be you know, laboring, but we actually see the graph is laboring, you know, across it really bad.
So potentially a good machine
Yeah, no, it's a great machine.
for a
2012.
10-year-old thing.
Hey, 2012 was a good year. I had a 2012 that I had as a race machine, and that thing was good to me when I got it. That thing was mint, and that thing won me a lot of awards. So I had that thing for a long time. That thing was a beast. I did some engine work to it, but even stock, it was good. So 2012 was a good year, a really good year. I mean, I personally feel so. Not bad, man, not bad. So
Well, I'd say success.
that's a huge success. So I guess next stop would be an intake, and it's just up to you what kind of intake you want to try.
Yeah, let's go shopping.
No problem. Sounds good. All right, man. Cool. Awesome. Fantastic. Fantastic work.